Hello everyone, this is Gene and I'm back with another video. So as you can tell by the title here, this is going to be pro wrestling related, and I'm going to be responding to Ronda Rousey saying that she won't return to the WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment, full time, and blames ungrateful fans. So let's get right into it. Here's what she had to say uh, on the Steve-O podcast, right? So this comes from a CBS article. So I'm going to read this in full, including the profanity she used. So, profanity warning, if anybody is concerned about that. You guys know that I typically don't swear, or at least don't swear a lot, unless I'm very upset or I feel that it's necessary. And in this case, I feel it's necessary because of the fact that I want her words to be fully understood. So, profanity warning. But here's what this section says. It says, on the latest episode of the Wild Ride with Steve-O podcast, Rousey talked about working for WWE and the type of schedule she had on the road. I love the WWE. I had such a great time. I love all the girls in the locker room, Ronda said. Running out there and having fake fights for fun is just the best thing. I love choreography. I love acting. I love theater, live theater, and some of the last forms of live theater. But I was doing basically part time and I was away from home 200 days out of the year. And when I did get home, I was so sleep deprived because you just don't have any time to lie down. Rousey goes on to say she learned she had a broken vertebrae in her lower back prior to signing with WWE during her medical exams. So when she was home, she'd have to be lying down with a heat pad on her back and a Tempur-Pedic pillow under her neck the whole time. If I did all the live shows, I was only home a day and a half a week. It was just not worth it for my family because we were eliminating all of our expenses and living this lifestyle. We didn't need it. We didn't need the money, Rhonda continued. So it's just like, what am I doing it for if I'm not being able to spend my time and energy on my family, but instead spending my time and my energy on a bunch of fucking ungrateful fans that don't even appreciate me? I love performing. I love the girls. I love being out there. But at the end of the day, I was just like, fuck these fans, dude. My family loves me and they appreciate me, and I want all my energy to go into them. So that was my decision at the end of the day. Is like, hey girls, love what you're doing. I'm going to try and take all my momentum and push you guys as far as I can. Fly, little birds, fly! I'm going fucking home. And that was basically it. Rousey ends this portion of the conversation saying that if she ever does return to WWE, it will not be in a full-time capacity, only short chunks of time. So I want to explain clearly, right out. I have no issue with Ronda Rousey prioritizing her family. In fact, in that regard, I think she made the better choice. Because yes, pro wrestling, any sort of traveling road show, whether it's MMA or pro wrestling or professional sports, is going to take you away from your family. That's one of the sacrifices you make. Many a pro wrestler, nearly every pro wrestler, has stories upon stories about how being in the wrestling business for years and years and years on end either broke up their families or created a wedge and a distance. So I have no problem with her leaving or only wanting to do part-time, which she said herself she was already doing as it was, when she was more of an active competitor and a presence, right? I have no problem with her only doing one-offs or things of that nature, doing part-time. That's fine by me. I don't think she made the wrong decision in prioritizing her family. I fully support her in that. What I do not like, and what this video is going to be the focus of, is her stating that the fans of, where is it? Let me just get it from the article here, right? So it says, what am I doing it for if I'm not being able to spend my time and my energy on my family, but instead spending my time and my energy on a bunch of fucking ungrateful fans that don't even appreciate me? That is the part that pissed me off. That is the part that set me off, and that is the part that this video is responding to. Because in my opinion, It's not the fans who are ungrateful, it is her. Now, to be clear, are pro wrestling fans demanding? Yes. Harsh? Yes. Nitpicky? Hell yes. And I speak as someone who has been a lifelong pro wrestling fan. I started watching pro wrestling around what, maybe 9, 10 years old at least. Watching WCW Saturday Night in the Power Plant and all this other stuff. I was part of a web radio show called Wrestling on the Rocks when I was in college, and we covered, as the name might suggest, pro wrestling and rock and roll. I've been to house shows. I've seen Raw in person. For my 18th birthday, my birthday present was going to a WWE house show. So when I say I'm about that life, I am about that life. The only thing I didn't do was actually become a pro wrestler. In fact, I met Mr. Fuji, who was a manager and TV personality in pro wrestling, in particular with the WWE back in the 80s and the 90s. He's probably best associated and remembered for his time with Yokozuna, the wrestler, who was supposed to be Japanese but was played by Samoan man. The 90s were a weird time. But anyway, I mention all this to explain to you, dear viewer, that I have a deep vested knowledge and investment in pro wrestling. It is a love and a passion of mine. So to have her, by extension, call me ungrateful, well, it pisses me off. Even though I know that technically it's not addressed to me personally, but I am a fan. I'm a fan of the WWE. I'm a fan of the business. I'm a fan of the art of it all. I've watched every major promotion. I've seen international promotions. I am indeed a dyed-in-the-wool pro wrestling fan. If she wants to go to war with the fans, here I am. So let's break down Ronda Rousey, okay? This is a woman who had to rip off men for her gimmick, okay? Baddest woman on the planet? Yeah. She got that from Mike Tyson. Her look, right? The jacket, the hot rod shirt, she got that from Roddy Piper. So she can't even come up with a gimmick of her own. She has to borrow from men who are, I guess you could say, more popular or more known than she is, right? Who are regarded on a higher level than she is, just for a nickname and a look. See, at least when Charlotte Flair does it and she appropriates the look and the moves of a well-known male pro wrestler, it's because that pro wrestler is her father. So, at the very least, you understand why she does it. She sort of, is the legacy of Rick, right? As it says here, the legacy of Rick, the rise of Charlotte. So, when she does it, I understand, because she's quite literally stunting like her daddy. So that makes sense. But here's the thing. Ronda Rousey got what very few female competitors, whether they work for the WWE or any other promotion, ever get to do. She got the fast track to WrestleMania. She got the fast track to being a champion. She didn't even skip the line. She just leapt over the line. Why? Because of the fact that she was already well known. Because here's the thing. I've seen her matches. I've heard her promos. She's mediocre. Her wrestling matches, mediocre. Nothing in particular or special about it. Her promo skills, very mediocre. Okay, Bret Hart could cut a better promo, and that's saying something. The only person possibly worse than her at promos in WWE at least is probably Roman Reigns. And again, that is saying something. But she got the fast track. She got the main event WrestleMania match. Why? Because she's Ronda Rousey. She's well known. She's popular. She had made a name for herself in the UFC prior to coming to the WWE. If she'd had to come up through NXT and pay her dues like every other person has to do, believe me, she probably never would have left NXT because she was simply not a remarkable pro wrestler. She was solid. She was reliable, although some say she was unsafe as a worker. Depends on who you ask. But as a star, as a personality, she didn't have it. Not for pro wrestling. Okay? Let's get that out of the way. The only reason she was ever at WrestleMania is because of her name in her previous career. She was a cash grab. She was a draw. That's all it was. She didn't get there because she earned it through actually being a good wrestler and climbing her way to the top. No, 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 no. It was not that at all. She didn't do that. Okay, fans respect women like Asuka. You know why? Because Asuka's been spending her whole adult life as a professional wrestler. Woman was wrestling in Japan up until like 2015, 2016, when she finally came over to WWE. She has a legacy. She's well known. People have seen her matches. You get instant cred when you're Asuka because guess what? You've been thrown through tables and you've been through death matches because you've done Joshi wrestling, and quite frankly, as much as I love it, Joshi wrestling is insane with what they demand of the female performers. Because American wrestling, in particular WWE, is much more about pomp and circumstance and showiness and I would say the performance of it all. Where Joshi wrestling is about being gritty and hard and intense and showing that you can go night after night after night. That is why Asuka is one of the most respected women in the business in WWE and has a very devoted following. Many, many, many fans think that WWE is criminally underusing her, and that goes for other Japanese talents such as Kairi Sane, Io Shirai, and others. Right? Trish Stratus, right, worked very hard during her 6 or so years where she was actively a wrestler, going from eye candy and the TNA thing and being an on-screen personality and being the sex symbol to actually being taken seriously as a wrestler. I watched her career from the whole Test and Albert thing to her last match at Madison Square Garden, which I attended, mind you. Cold, snowy night in New York City in January. I'm standing in with a bunch of other people trying to see who's coming out, and all of a sudden you get a peek of blonde and it's Trish Stratus. And you know what we all started doing? We all started cheering. Thank you, Trish! Thank you, Trish! Thank you, Trish! Because we respected her. Because we respected the dedication she had put in to being a pro wrestler for those years. Because we had seen her grow, seen her change, seen her become a champion and a pretty dang good wrestler, in my opinion. Right? And keep in mind, Vince McMahon allowed her to retire as champion. That doesn't happen because the last time Vince allowed a pretty blonde girl to walk off with his women's title, she dropped it into the trash can of the opposing company a few nights later. Thank you, Alundra Blaze. Right? This is Lita. You know why fans respect Lita and like Lita? Because here's the thing. While some may remember her as Edge's eye candy and Edge's real life girlfriend and that whole thing between her and Edge and Matt Hardy, right? People who are fans like myself remember her for going through a table, right? Through having grueling matches, right? We remember her as being a part of Team Extreme, starting out with the Hardy Boys, and even prior to that, starting out with Esa Rios. Because, see, we love and know and respect her as a wrestler for her wrestling. That's what's important. That is why fans still, whenever Lita's music hits and you hear that, LF your rules, man, and that whole loud thing, fans cheer because we respect her. Because we respect the hard work she put in over her years in the business. You see, women like Chyna deserve to be remembered and in the Hall of Fame because Chyna, real name Joanie Laurer, made it so that non-traditional women, right, could be in the business and could make it and could be wrestlers, even though she herself was by no means the best wrestler ever. She was not. She made it possible for other women, like, say, Victoria, right, to be able to make it in the business. Okay? Women like Sable made it possible to have women like the Divas and all that. And while, again, Sable's career, the Diva period, will probably never be looked on kindly because of the exploitation and the over reliance of sex appeal. But here's the thing: if you don't have the Chynas and you don't have the Sables and you don't have the Diva period, you don't have the current period where we have stars like Becky Lynch, like Charlotte Flair, like Bayley, like Sasha Banks, and all these others. These are the women who paved the way. And I don't even like Sable as a person, but these are the women who paved the way for what we have today. The women's evolution, these women put down those rocks. These women and those prior to them, which I will get to, are the ones who made it possible. And Ronda Rousey wants to talk about ungrateful fans. People will still jump up and stand up in their seats even if they hear the beginning of Sable's theme, because she is still respected and no doubt lusted for by many fans of the business. I know that Ronda Rousey is certainly not on the level of a Mae Young and a Fabulous Moolah, right? The Mae Young Classic, which is a event that helps young up-and-coming female talent show off what they can do, right, is named the Mae Young Classic because of Mae Young, because she and women like her and women like the Fabulous Moolah, who's the one in the gray jacket here, made it possible for women to become pro wrestlers in the 50s and the 60s. And I think I start back in the 40s. But at least from the 40s to about the 60s, where women would be laughed out of wrestling schools. These women paved the way, and fans are grateful and respectful toward them. Okay, I know that Ronda Rousey is not on the level of a Bull Nakano, who made it so that, heck, you could have Japanese talent and Japanese champions, right? For people who are fans of Asuka today, this was my Asuka. This was the woman who introduced me to women's pro wrestling. Her matches with her and Alundra Blaze are things of beauty, in my personal opinion. And for me, she is my favorite female wrestler of all time. But it's women like her that made it possible for women like Asuka today to be in a Western company and to be admired and respected and to have fan bases, because she earned the respect of the fans, because she earned the respect of her fellow workers. And I know that Ronda Rousey is nowhere near the level of Sherry Martel, who, while she did have a wrestling career, is probably best remembered as a valet and a wrestling personality. But anybody who knows their wrestling knows and loves Sherry because she was all about the business. This is the woman who managed talent such as the Macho Man Randy Savage, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, Booker T and Stevie Ray, Harlem Heat. And all these men have had nothing but positive things to say about her because Sherry worked. Sherry made it possible for women to be interesting personalities, to be seen, even though her work is mainly with other men. She made it possible for women to be on-screen personalities and to be active in what they were doing, right? That, and she was the perfect foil to Miss Elizabeth, who was always very quiet and demure. Not to pick on Miss Elizabeth, but I'm just saying. Sherry was the one who got in there, who got active, and people respected her because we knew that she used to be a pro wrestler, and she had simply transitioned into a different part of her career, now managing male talent and making that male talent look good and elevating their status and helping them in their careers. Okay, Sherry is sometimes thought of or considered to be the female equivalent of Ric Flair in some respects, and I think that is totally valid. She made amazing contributions to the business because she loved the business. The only bad thing anyone could ever say about Sherry was that, like many pro wrestlers, she had a lot of personal demons, a lot of struggles with drugs and alcohol, and sadly, she lost the battle to that and died, I think in '06 or something, or '07, shortly after she was inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame. But Sherry and all these other female wrestlers that I've mentioned have been all about the business, have loved the fans, have paved the way for women like Ronda Rousey to be able to jump the line and be at WrestleMania. A pro wrestler lives and dies, right? The character sinks or fails on fan response. Are fans critical and harsh? Yes. Will fans love you forever if you win over that love and trust? Yes. Here's the thing. In my opinion, Ronda Rousey was never a wrestler. Has never been a wrestler. In my opinion, she is a celebrity. She's a celebrity who did that wrestling thing for a little bit of time. And in my opinion, she belongs in the same category as such as Mike Tyson, Pete Rose, Drew Carey, President Trump, the celebrity wing. Now, I don't know if she'll ever be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. I certainly don't think she deserves it. But that's where she belongs. She's a celebrity. She is not a pro wrestler. She has not contributed anything meaningful to the pro wrestling business. She wants to talk about ungrateful. No, honey, you are the one who is ungrateful. As I was saying, she is the one who is ungrateful here. She was given an opportunity that wrestlers, male or female, work their lives toward, dedicate their lives to. And there are many pro wrestlers, sadly, who for one reason or another, whether they're male or female, who will never get that. There is female talent that had to come off the card to make sure that Ronda Rousey could be on it. There is female talent that have scrapped for years to get a sniff at WrestleMania. To get a sniff of the Women's Championship. And she wants to talk about ungrateful fans. Honey, you didn't earn the fans' love and respect. It's that simple. You didn't earn it. And now you're upset because you were never embraced by the fans. Why should the fans embrace you when you did not embrace the fans? Want to know why fans cheered when Triple H came back from injury back in January of 2002 after blowing his quad muscle at the time? Because he earned the love and respect of the fans. And so when he came back at Madison Square Garden, interestingly enough, and his music hit, the fans cheered, and he cheered, and he roared, and it was awesome because he loved the fans, he loves the business, we love him right back. But we criticize him for things like the Katie Vick angle? Yes, but we'll always criticize that. We will always criticize things like his reign of terror when he was champion in the early 2000s. But do pro wrestling fans love and respect Triple H? Yes. Are we grateful for what he's done in the business? Yes. We have him to thank for NXT. Do pro wrestling fans love and respect Shawn Michaels? Yes, they do. I saw when he came back and I jumped around like a little girl because my hero was back in the ring after years and years and years off. Shawn loves the fans, Shawn loves the business, and we love him back. When Edge came back in 2020 at the Royal Rumble this year and the fans roared, hell, even I stood up and smiled and clapped. You know why? Because Edge, the fans know, Edge loves the business, Edge loves the fans, and we love him back. So in closing, and I want Ronda Rousey to understand this, The wrestling business didn't need you before. It doesn't need you after. You did nothing to elevate female talent. You were hardly around. You don't get to call yourself a pro wrestler. But let's understand something, honey. Everyone, and I mean everyone, dances to sweet chin music, including you. But anyway, everybody, that's the video. I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day. She pissed me off. Bye.